Hi, friends. It's an honor to be with you here today, and I bring with me the warm wishes of Jerry, Jake, and the rest of the global headquarters team. Now, while we haven't been able to spend time in person with you this past year, know that you're constantly in our thoughts and in our hearts. Tony, he keeps us updated on your lives, and we love to celebrate your victories, and man, have there been a lot of them this year. Even from Idaho Falls, we are high-fiving and regularly talking about your businesses. I cannot wait to be able to travel and meet with you in person. I'm sure that you feel the exact same way. But for now, we have an important topic to discuss, and we'll do the best we can with Zoom. So grab your pen and paper, let's roll up our sleeves and get to work. You see, I know that many of you have had unprecedented growth this past year, just as Melaleuca has. And that tells me that you're already very skilled at developing leaders. And now the big question becomes, how do you find new business partners? I don't know about you, but when I was growing up in a small town in Missouri, I can remember going to my mom and dad and talking to them about what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I can assure you, it was not a business builder. Did any of you ever go to your parents and talk about wanting to be a business builder when you were growing up? I'm guessing not, because it isn't a thing. There isn't a unicorn on the side of the road waving a big sign that says, "I'm a business builder." But man, wouldn't that be nice? Instead, we know that a business builder is someone just like you, someone like me, who has a desire to enhance the lives of others and a willingness to work hard along the way with a belief in our exceptional products. Today, we're going to walk through how to develop your own personal finding strategy for identifying business partners. Let's start with strategy. Strategy is a lot of things. It's a plan, it's a vision, but mostly it's a way to win, a way to grow your business. And before we develop your strategy, there are a few questions you should ask yourself. What do I have to offer? That's the first question to ask yourself. And you already know that Melaleuca has exceptional products and an awesome business opportunity. So that's not even a question. The next one would be, who should I be talking to? And we'll call that your target market. The third question I would ask is, how do I best do that? How will I go about approaching or talking with my target market? And the fourth question is, where do I find them? As you have the answers to these key elements, it will provide you everything that you need to build your strategy. Now, in developing your personal finding strategy, let's do it in 4 easy steps. The first step, we want to choose 3 to 4 tracks to run on, or groups. So think of it this way. In the US, we call them ponds de fish in. We might call it today, let's refer to them as tracks, like train tracks going down the road. There's multiple tracks, and your train can go on any of them, and it can go back and forth from track to track. So these are kind of your big pools, your big groups, or your big tracks. And we're going to choose 3 to 4 of them to develop a strategy for. I'll get more into that in just a moment. The second step will be to develop an action plan for each. Step 3 will be to choose your target market, who it is that you want to work with. And step 4, to make a commitment to working the plan. Now, let's get into these tracks that we discussed earlier. There's a lot of different tracks that you can look at or pools that you can work with. Today we'll talk about just a few, but let me give you an idea what they might be. Customers, existing customers. How many of you have found a business builder from within your existing customer pool? I bet a lot of you have. Many of our most successful Melaleuca marketing executives have come exactly from the existing customer pool. The other one would be canceled customers. What about you? Have you developed a business builder from a canceled customer list? While it might not seem as obvious, I think there's probably many of you that have. Okay, here's a fun one. What about people that told you no? I'm sure that there are many of you in the room that have been told no before. Anyone? If I was there, I bet hands would be going up all over the place. You probably have 5 times as many people that have told you no as you have customers. And if you do, you're totally normal. The question will be, have you kept track of those people that have told you no? Are they on a list somewhere? Do you know when you spoke with them last and why it is that they told you no? And do you know how to reach them? If you haven't been keeping track, you're going to want to, because they're the perfect track or group in which to develop a finding strategy for. Referrals. Many marketing executives have come from referrals. In fact, the U.S. marketing executive, corporate director for Mark Atha, would tell you that of 7 of his personal executive directors, 6 have come from referrals. This is definitely a category you're going to want to consider building a strategy for. existing long-term relationships, multi-level marketing, friends and family. There's many different tracks that you can work on. So today we'll spend our time developing a strategy for one or two of these so that you have an idea how you can build your own personal strategy for the actions that you want to work on. Okay, let's build our strategy. We'll use current customers as our example for this first one. So within your current customer base, the first thing that you'll need to do is decide who you want to work with. How do you think you would go about doing that? Well, I know if it were me, I would pull up my business report and I would take a look at all of the customers. And then I would determine who it is that I want to reach out to on that list. I want to prioritize them. But you might ask, how would you go about doing that? Well, I'd first take a look at the customers and maybe their purchasing habits. Who purchases larger volumes of products? And I would look at that as an indication that they're a big fan of the Melaleuca products. They might be primed to connect with and potentially develop into a business builder. The other area that I would consider is, who do I have a personal relationship with? Who do I know that might need the Melaleuca business opportunity in their life? Who might the time be right for at this point in time? So take a look at your business report, assess it, and prioritize who it is that you would want to reach out to consider the opportunity in building a Melaleuca business. Now, the whole point in doing this is to be able to stay in touch with these customers regularly because our lives change all the time. Well, at least mine does. Maybe yours stays the same, but I have a house full of teenagers and everything changes all the time. So the customer who told you 5 years ago that they'll never want to build a Melaleuca business, who knows what's happened in their life since then? And if you don't stay in touch with them, you won't know when that time is right for them. So your strategy is around how will you stay in touch with them to know when the time is right. That would be your second point of your strategy. I would consider maybe setting a time to meet with at least one customer a week, to have tea with. And maybe you don't talk about Melaleuca, but you just learn what's happening in their world. Or what if you decided to contact 2 of your customers each week via phone? And maybe you say, I was thinking about you. How are you doing? So it's not necessarily, doesn't have to be about Melaleuca, but you're continuing that relationship, continuing to build that rapport. By asking questions and understanding what's happening in their world, you'll know when things have changed for them and if it's time to approach them about building a Melaleuca business. Other ideas that you could include in your strategy might be to write several note cards a week. When was the last time you got a handwritten note card in the mail? I know for me it's been years, but I love it when I get them. The third component is that you'll want to decide specifically how much time you want to devote to this particular strategy. Maybe 10 to 15 minutes a day, maybe 30 minutes a week. And realize that nothing will come of it immediately. It might be that you go and have tea and it was a wonderful time with one of your customers, and they might not want to build a business that day, but you never know what'll come of it down the road, or if you'll develop a referral from it. So I would schedule time on your calendar for those 10 to 15 minutes a day. That's a great way to start. Now, the second part of this is that you're going to want to know, when you meet with these customers, what's going to pique their interests. So think about what questions that you're going to ask. How will you engage with them? Will you use social media? Maybe you'll invite them to an event or share one of the promotion opportunities that you have with them. Let me give you an idea what that could sound like. And these are things that you can plan into your strategy. So you might say, maybe you just came back from convention, and you might say, hey, I just got back from convention. It was awesome. You've got to go sometime. I've recommitted to building my business, and I'm looking for a few people to work with over the next few months to help people get rid of their debt. Lisa, I know that you had recently shared with me that you wanted to reduce your debt. I'd love to be able to help you out with that. What do you think? Is that warm and friendly? Is it about them? Absolutely. That's you making a difference in someone else's life. And if the worst thing they say is no, I don't have the time's not right, that's okay too. Keep their name on their list. Check back in with them. But always, above all, make sure that you're genuine and your concern and your interest is in them specifically. All right, that's our first strategy. Not too hard? So my encouragement for you is to make time to build your own specific strategy for existing customers if that's one of the tracks you choose to run on. Okay, let's talk about another track. What about those who've told you no to building a business? And we talked about before, everybody should have a huge list of no's. If you don't, you're not asking enough. So when you want to build a strategy around this group, here's a few things to consider. Go through your list regularly. Look at it each week. Maybe it's the last Sunday of the month. Whatever it might be, choose a time to regularly look through this list to consider who might be ready to approach about being a new business partner. Prioritize your list, just as we discussed with our customers. Next, what will your strategy be for how you'll approach them? Again, the same pattern that we developed in our strategy for working with existing customers. Here's an example you could use. I have room for one more person on my team. And the last time we spoke, you were wanting to find more time to stay at home with your family. I'd love to be able to see you do that. Can we get together? Again, it's all about them. And I'm sure that all of you in the room would have a much better, much smoother, much more sincere thing to say, but take it for what it's worth and it'll just give you an idea where you can get started. Okay, one more specific example for a track. Let's talk about referrals. Now, as we already discussed, this is an incredibly important category. There's a lot of opportunity here if you'll allow for it. And referrals are something that you really just want to always be priming for them. And by that I mean, when you're doing an overview, say something about it so they start thinking about it, and then circle back. Let me give you an example. While you're doing your overview, you might say something like, this might not be for you, but you may see a few products that you think would really help someone you know. So let's chat about that when we're done. And then, towards the end, you might say something like, did you think of anyone who might benefit from the protein powder? Or something like that. Be as specific as you can. It will help them think about a name to associate with the product. Now, the other important part of referrals is to be organized. Many marketing executives that I've worked with in the past, while they see the value and importance in referrals, they might not have done a great job of keeping track of them. So you want to make sure that you're keeping them organized. They're in a list. You've got a name, a contact. Write down when you met with them last. Some marketing executives like to use their phone to maybe record the events of the day, and then at night they might download that or write that down onto their list. Whatever strategy works for you, that'll be the right one. The next step in developing our finding strategy is to choose your target market that you want to work with. Remember that question, who do you want to work with? This is the time for it. So we're going to want to choose 2 to 3 target markets. Let me give you an idea what that could look like. A target market is maybe a group or a category of individuals, like real estate agents, stay-at-home moms, teachers, small business owners, maybe even nurses. Executive Director 2, Tiffany Chen, she's a nurse, and her Senior Director, Kathy, she comes from the nursing field. It's a great example that she is able to work within a field that she's comfortable with. So how would you choose who that you want to work with and what areas or what target markets that you want to work with? You would want to consider an area that you know well. For instance, nursing. If you are a nurse, if you walk in that circle, then you understand their vernacular. You understand their need, where they spend time, how Melaleuca might benefit them. It becomes very easy for you to connect with other nurses. If I were to try to connect with nurses, we would all be in a whole lot of trouble because I have no idea what their needs are or exactly what their vernacular is or how Melaleuca would benefit them specifically. So think about what areas that you're comfortable in. What circles do you walk in? Maybe it's even your spouse. Perhaps your spouse is a real estate agent. And while you're not one, you understand the vernacular. You understand the need that Melaleuca can feel for them. And that can become a good area that you may choose to work within. So choose 2 to 3 areas, 2 to 3 target markets that you want to work in. Another example would be Executive Director 8, Candace Fu. She met Senior Director 3, Sharon, at church. That's a time and a place where Candace spends a lot of her energy. She understands it. She understands they share some common interests when they're there at church. And they are there together. And so that was a good opportunity for her to connect with Sharon. You get an idea here. Now, once you think about the target markets that you want to work with, you next want to think about how you would approach them or where they spend time and what areas that you might want to spend time. So for instance, if realtors generally go to real estate networking events, that might be an area for you to plan your time to go and meet with other realtors. And because you already work within that world, you walk in that circle, then you'll already know that. That's why focusing on a few target markets can make you really powerful. I'd also consider asking yourself where you found your leaders in the past. And here's another thing that might be a little bit new for all of you, but I would imagine by now you're pretty darn skilled in it. This can be done not only in person, but also virtually. The concepts and the actions are the same. I had the opportunity to meet with Stacy Bodner as well as another marketing executive in the United States. Now, one builds virtually and one builds in person. But by having them both share how they build their businesses, what we learned is that it's exactly the same process. You're still getting to know others. You're spending time where there's like interest, and you're still asking questions to learn about them and looking for opportunities where Melaleuca could benefit them. And you're developing a sincere relationship, and at the time is right, you share the Melaleuca concept and the Melaleuca products with them. It's the same whether it's in person or virtually. It might be a virtual room on Facebook or in WeChat, or it might be in person at an event. It depends on who you're working with, but know that both those opportunities are there for you. The last piece is just choosing what you'll say. When you know the individual you want to connect with, you know what their need is, it will become easy for you to know how you want to approach them. The final step of building our strategy is commitment. You've got a finding strategy. We've got a good start on it today. I'd encourage you to take your pen and your paper, schedule some time with yourself to go through and choose a few tracks that you want to focus on. Choose those tracks, walk through and develop a plan, a strategy plan for yourself, and then decide how often that you want to work that. Maybe it's 5 to 6 hours a week. Will it be early in the morning or later in the day? Or one day or a little bit each? That's up to you, and it's very personal. But I'd encourage you to make a commitment. Schedule that time on your calendar. I know for me, if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening. Now, once you've got your finding strategy, you've got to commit to working it consistently and just get to work. And then, as a support team, realize that your business, one of the best things that you can do is help the leaders on your team develop and commit to their own personal finding strategy. Remember, there are countless families that are waiting for you to share what you know, and you are needed now more than ever. So choose to believe in Melaleuca. Believe in your business partners. And please, if you only hear one thing today, choose to believe in yourself and have the courage to continue to walk forward each day, knowing that you're valued and you're needed. Believe in yourself and know that I believe in you too. I'll see you soon.